Hi, everyone at Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this is Spotlight Now. Today I'm here with Nicola Finch of Touchwood Memorial Rings. For the past 25 years, Nicola has lived off-grid on 48 acres in a remote area west of Williams Lake in British Columbia, Canada. She and her husband David are co-creators of Touchwood Rings and Touchwood Memorial Rings. David is the pioneer of the bentwood ring. Nicole is a writer and a photographer who focuses on the beauty of the natural world. She is a death doula and a community death care advocate. So welcome, Nicola.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. I appreciate the invitation, Ed.
Oh, you're very welcome, and we're really glad to have you. And I know you're doing good work. Can you share the inspiration behind your work with the memorial rings and what drew you to the world of memorial art and jewelry?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, David and I have been doing this for about 25 years. It's as long as we've lived out here, remote and off grid, on this beautiful 48 acres on the Chilcotin Plateau. Um, so, what brought me to the death work is, as most people, is a personal loss. My brother took his own life when he was 29 and I was 25, 26. And that was kind of my munch scream moment of realizing that, oh yeah, people I love die. Um, and he was cremated. Um, since then, I've lost my mom, my dad, my sister. They've all been cremated. And I'm actually a natural burial advocate. So interestingly, I really love cremated remains. I like the fact that there's a something left of the people we love. Um, I like the beauty of them. I don't know how many of our viewers have actually seen cremated remains, but which we often call ashes. They're not ashes. It's actually little bits of bone. And everybody's is different. There are different colors and there's different consistencies. And interestingly, um, when my brother was cremated almost 45 years ago, um, they didn't the cremulator didn't crush the remains quite as much. Like today, when you see ashes, they're quite fine. That many years ago, they were fairly coarse. And so, in if someone has an urn of ashes that's been sitting, and often we do, has been sitting on a mantle or in a cupboard for decades because we don't know what to do with them, they might find that if they look at the ashes, the cremated remains, they're actually bigger, bigger pieces. And so we didn't start making memorial jewelry. We started making wood rings as a way to minimize mining of gold and precious metals. Because we are naturalists, um, and because we want to protect the earth, it seemed uh, an interesting thing to do. And we didn't offer initially we didn't offer our rings as wedding rings or engagement rings, but that is what people came to us for. And so Touchwood Rings, our primary website, and most of our work is now wedding rings and engagement rings. And they're wood, they're bent wood, and they have inlays of all sorts of wonderful things. Like people will send us rose petals or stones that they want crushed. Maybe they went on a walk and they picked up a pebble together and they want that crushed as an inlay on their ring, right? And so, and people send us wood from all over the world, a branch from a tree. We don't harvest trees, and we use so little wood in our rings. Like I think years ago, we kind of worked out that a ring probably doesn't have a popsicle stick's worth of wood in it, right? So there's not a lot of material used, but um, David is quite an artist, and he's able to find the beauty in a branch. Um, if you look at a branch lengthwise and look at the heartwood, you'll see there's usually a darker heartwood, and he will often go there for the most beautiful wood in the branch, right? And he uses very long, thin pieces of wood. He sands them down, he steam bends them, and then there's quite a few processes and usually inlays, not always. Sometimes it's just the wood. So we made touchwood rings for a number of years. And one day David said to me, "How would you like some of your your family's ashes in a ring. Oh, yes, please. So we did that. And it was so beautiful. And so we started offering memorial rings. Um, and they are, the work is tender and beautiful. It is like the work I do is with clients, with people who contact us. I talk to them on email, sometimes on Zoom, but mostly it's email. It's kind of old-fashioned letter writing. And so we talk with each other about the person or the pet that someone wants to memorialize. It's never, ever, ever about selling. It's about listening to the person and hearing their grief and hearing their memories. The work I do is so non-transactional. Like I really don't mind if someone talks to me for 2 years and they don't end up having asking for a ring. Because I'm also a death doula and because I love people, and because I understand grief myself, I'm really quite willing to have the conversations. I love meeting people. I love letter writing. And so our email communications are rich. People will tell me stories about themselves and the person they love. And one of the really neat things about letter writing, email, is that we don't see each other. And so there's a permission there. Like we've been doing this for 25 years. I think we've met a handful of the people that we've worked with, met in person. Um, Sometimes people will send us a picture, quite often, not always. So sometimes we don't even know what these people look like, but we know who they are from what they talk about and what's important to them and who they love. And so memorial rings are offered as an option for someone, and not just rings. David also makes beautiful pendants and talismans, pieces, wood pieces that people can hold in their pocket, with inlays of ashes, and not always ashes. Sometimes people don't have cremated remains. Sometimes they might have um, a piece of wood that meant something to Dad. One woman sent us a neck of a guitar that belonged to her dad. And David made a beautiful cross for her out of that. And he used a little bit of the ivory on the cross, and it just was beautiful. And she loved it. Um, Sometimes it's heartbreaking. Some of the stories are very, very heartbreaking. Babes who die at birth um, or before they're born, and making a ring or a pendant for those folks. We had one couple who we made a ring for. Um, they lost their babe right at birth from some terrible complications. Um, and so we made them a ring. And actually, we made a ring for the dad. The mom, ordered a ring for the dad. Um, and then a year later, she contacts me and tells me she's pregnant again. And so prayers went up and everyone held their breath and they have a beautiful baby. Um, and she sent me a photograph of the dad wearing the ring of their first babe, holding their new babe. And so things like that are just, there's no measuring the beauty of that, and the richness of it. And so really the people are what it's all about. Um, the people we work with,
No,
and they
absolutely.
can,
And as you were, oh, I'm sorry, Nicola, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, as I listen to you, you're answering a lot of the questions that I was to ask you, which is wonderful because I love people to be able to story tell and talk about how this affects them, and it obviously affects you profoundly. And
Yes.
what I was thinking as you were speaking is that, like, what a wonderful way to memorialize or celebrate a life that was lived. And you had mentioned you do like natural burial as well. And for any of our viewers, whether it be cremated remains or it was a natural burial, just imagine, possibly taking a limb or something from the forest that someone is laid in, and having something like this made for, maybe the wife or the husband, or one of the important family members as a keepsake. I think it's a wonderful idea. I've never really heard anything quite like it, and I commend you
Uh,
for that.
and
And
then thank you. So another possibility with that, with a natural burial, is there's going to be small stones around. And so maybe you take a maybe the family takes a stone, just a little, you just inlay material. We need so very little. Like I say to people, don't send us more than a teaspoon of cremated remains. And that's lots to make a ring or make a few rings or make a few pendants. And so you can send a little tiny stone and David would crush that up and inlay it in a ring. And stones are really quite beautiful when they're inlaid. They end up looking like granite, right? So I don't know if you can actually, if
No.
I can show you this ring here, this one that I'm, let's see, do I have any
Oh,
light
yeah.
on it? Yeah, a little bit. So this is my brother's ashes inlaid in this ring, and it's a quite a wide
Uh,
inlay. Um, and
that's
they can be
beautiful.
and David will often border an inlay. So this has my brother's ashes, and then it's bordered by a bright maple, and the wood is cherry, and cherry darkens. And so people too on our Touchwood Rings website, I have a page about the um, spiritual meanings of trees and woods from all sorts of different cultures. And that's a really interesting page for someone who's looking for, maybe they don't have a personal connection to a tree or a particular wood. They can go on this page and say, "Oh, I see that koa has um, a masculine kind of warrior uh, feeling to it, right?" And then all sorts of different woods have different meanings and different spiritual values. And so that's an interesting place to browse too for people who are thinking about different kinds of woods. Most people do have, particularly when someone's died, they know that dad really loved maple trees, or you know, the sister loved to climb the apple tree when she was little, that kind of thing. So,
Oh,
and we
oh
have
yeah, it evokes good.
hundreds of different woods available to people. Um, they can send their own if they like, small branch. And we have so many beautiful woods available after 25 years. People will send us a branch. David uses so little wood, and they're very generous in leaving us the wood. And so we have a wonderful storeroom full of just amazing branches of woods from all over the world. From we have pink ivory from a backyard in South Africa. We've got um, woods from Australia and New Zealand and Spain and England and Germany and all over the United States. So yeah, it's a nice storehouse to have of different woods available to people.
And I think it's such a unique offering, one that probably many people have never thought of. And I'm really glad that we're able to speak to you about it because I think it's an important one, because it's a way to keep someone close to you, and open a conversation about the grief and how that memorial jewelry might have helped them in their healing journey. I think
Yeah,
that's important for people to know. And it's obvious your life and work are deeply connected to the land, living off grid, in the forest. How does that lifestyle influence your philosophy about this memorialization?
100%. We are stewards of this land. Uh, we don't own it, not in the bigger sense of things. We consider ourselves stewards. There's a beautiful creek that runs through this property, these 48 acres. Um, and we don't fish the creek. We leave the creek for the herons and the otters and whoever else needs the fish who lives here. Um, and so the wood rings and pendants and memorial pieces that we make. Some of the wood comes from here if people are interested in using our local woods. Um, and just our whole approach to life really informs our work. And like I say, it's why we initially offered wood rings, which there was nobody else that I could find on the planet who was making them at the time. Um, and it seemed like, and it was kind of we offered them up. We thought, well, is anybody going to want a wood ring? Well, yeah, there's a whole world of people who want wood rings, fortunately. And so it's been a wonderful journey. And David's work has informed every other wood ring maker that is out there. He was the first. He has developed the craft incredibly well. He makes a very good, durable wood ring. They're not bulletproof, they're wood. And so, one of the beautiful things about wearing a wood ring, particularly with wedding rings is that they need some care. They need some tending, just like our relationships. You know, you don't go rock climbing with your wood ring on. And also, the other thing that we do is we're always here for people. We are always here. They want to send a ring back for refinishing. We had a gal recently whose ring accidentally went through the washing machine, and that's happened before. And so it was a little bit puffed out, and David resurrected it beautifully, and it looked better than new. So we offer, you know, we're always here, and we'll always look after folks' rings. When someone sends back a ring that's just been through something terrible and it's not going to be able to be restored, we always do everything we can to bring it back to something that they can keep and make them a new ring that looks, you know, a replica, so that they always have that original ring, because we also think that's really important. There's a lot of love, and um, there's just a lot of love in a ring. You know, we particular anything, a memorial ring or a wedding ring or an engagement ring, they mean something to us. And so it's never a matter of just, oh, well, that one's trashed, we'll make a new one. No, they're very important, and we look after them like that.
Absolutely, the symbolism, and it really is a special thing that you're doing, and probably one that many of our viewers have never heard of. And I do encourage them to visit your website and become not only enlightened, but hopefully maybe they'll have interest, because I think it's a wonderful idea and it's something very, very unique. And I do know that beyond memorial rings, I know you're an advocate for green burial in British Columbia. Can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with Green Burial British Columbia?
Yeah, it's actually it's why I became a death doula, or why I trained as a death doula. Um, because cremation is pretty tough on the environment, and in British Columbia, and I imagine lots of other places, almost everyone these days is cremated, and our crematoriums are old. The equipment is in need of a lot of repair or new equipment in the crematoriums, and so environmentally they're problematic. Um, there are lots of options these days um, for improving cremation. For unfortunately, right now today, it's a problem, and the number of people who want cremations is tremendous. And so, a natural burial just fits with our lifestyle. We bury our pets naturally. We have quite a few pets buried here, and we also offer free burials to community members for their pets if they don't have land or the option. And so, we have quite a few cats buried here that didn't belong to us, that were loved by someone else. And we just do that as a can we help? So natural burial is the way to go, I think. I worked very hard for quite a few years to es- establish a natural burial ground in the Caribou. I've since kind of let it go. I still run the Green Burial website, Green Burial BC, as a way to advocate and keep people informed of what's going on in British Columbia. I think someday we will have a natural burial ground. We looked at the possibility of doing it on our own property, which is an option. It's expensive, it's a lot of red tape, and it wasn't something that I wanted to spend my life doing. And so I continue to advocate and educate around natural burial in British Columbia. And there are more coming all the time. Um, there's hybrid burial grounds in some of our um, uh, municipal cemeteries, and I'd like to see a lot more standalone natural burial grounds, but I think it'll happen. It'll come all in good
Oh,
time.
yeah. Well, patience is a virtue, and something as important as natural burial, it will absolutely. We've grown leaps and bounds, and I'm sure it most certainly will. So we certainly, we appreciate your advocacy. So thank you for representing, British Columbia in that way. And and we feel good about options, and you had mentioned with cremation, of course, that some of the older equipment, is antiquated and a polluter, but a lot of the new stuff is extremely, up to date when it comes to air
Yep.
quality standards. And
Environmentally sensitive. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and and the funny thing about natural burial, the funny thing about cremation is this: some people want to believe this is something new, but it's something very, very ancient. It goes back to the dawn of time. We buried our people naturally. We cremated them in many instances. So it's not
That's
anything
right.
new. So I really commend you for the work that you've done. And going back to the rings, and I'm sure that this is a very difficult question because I'm sure everyone is meaningful, but was there a particular piece that was especially memorable to the both of you that you made?
Well, I have to say my own ring with my brother's ashes, and then I'll tell you why. Because he died 45 years ago, and over the years we did beautiful things for his departure, for his funeral. We did it all ourselves, and so when he was cremated, we made little pouches and we gave them to so many people that we love and that he loved of his ashes. And over the years, I didn't have any more ashes. I had nothing left of Michael other than my memories and some things that belonged to him, his writings, but none of his ashes. And then one summer, my cousin sent me a pouch of his ashes that she still had. And it was so amazing. It was like he came home to me. There's nothing. And we recently made a ring for a friend of mine who lost her brother when he was young. And his ashes were put in a columbarium. And they finally decided after the mom died to get his ashes out of the columbarium and bring them home, and they would do what they needed to do. And it was the same kind of experience for her. It felt to her like her brother had come home. And so, yeah, that was very meaningful to me to be able to make a ring with my brother's ashes, who I still love tremendously and always will. And with my memorial jewelry, and I have memorial jewelry of my mom, my dad, my brother, and my older sister. And I rarely wear them unless I'm going out or doing something important. Today, my conversation with you, Ed, is important. And so I'm wearing Michael because he's with me, right? And if I'm going to a special event, I will take whoever I feel I need with me, my mom and dad, maybe my brother, my sister. And so um, it's a very real thing. And the rings are beautiful. And so people will notice them. And I can either just say, "Oh, isn't that neat? My husband makes those." Or if they're interested and I'm ready, I can tell them a story about my brother because there's the ring that offers the story, right? And so there's an opportunity for sharing the people we love when you're wearing a piece of memorial jewelry. You can keep it private or you can share a story, something funny, something warm, some memory. So yeah, there's a lot of meaning in memorial jewelry.
Absolutely, and I love the way you described that. And I must sit here and tell the viewers that I think this is probably one of the most wonderful and unique offerings that we've had the pleasure of presenting to our viewers. I think it's something that
Thank you, Ed.
people, and I mean that because it really does have
Thank you.
a lot of meaning, and you don't realize sometimes how much something means to you until, like you said, when you receive that pouch of ashes back. You probably never thought, and you would never see that again, and
That's
that's
right.
why it was so special. So I got to tell you, Nicola, you're doing a great job. You guys,
Thank you.
we really, really appreciate what you're doing, not only for the green burial community with British Columbia, but with of course, your memorial jewelry. That's what's
Thank you.
really changing the game for people. So anyone with any interest, please visit memorialring.ca or touchwoodrings.com. Reach out to Nicola. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you today, and we really appreciate
Thank
everything
you,
you've
Ed.
done. You're very
Thanks. The
welcome.
opportunity to talk about our work and the work we love is just great. It's made my day. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's made my day as well. So everybody, visit Nicola at Touchwood Memorial Rings. And this is Ed Bixby from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this was Spotlight Now.